My mother was a storyteller. She told the most nightmarish stories imaginable.
My mom was 12 when the war started. She came home one day when she was 14 and the house was empty. Everybody was gone.
They saw a white star on that tank and on the helmet of the soldier. Then they understood these were not Germans, and those turned out to be Americans. Mr. Towers.
How are you?
Thank you.
I take a great deal of pride in having been a small part of the liberation of your parents and so many others.
We had a pink Star of David graffitied on our front door. There were more gay couples in the building, but no Jewish couples. So that was for us.
My Amsterdam is not my Amsterdam anymore. I was literally walking outside this house and all of a sudden I see this gigantic crowd and I hear them yell, Hamas, Hamas, Jews to the gas.
Last year there was a demonstration of IS.
Europe is really rapidly going down fast.
But now we start to see ominous and familiar warning signs in America.
So welcome to Queerguru TV and congratulations on your first ever documentary, Never Again Is Now, which I've been unable to forget about ever since I saw it. Can you tell us briefly what it's about without giving it all away?
Thank you, Roger, for having me on your show. The documentary is about the rising anti-Semitism in Europe and in the United States now as well. It's about my personal experiences as well as the broader development around this topic. And I also interview certain thought leaders, well-renowned thought leaders about this development in Europe and in the United States. And the film starts with a related topic, and that is my personal background of my parents. So I'm Jewish. I'm from Holland. My parents were Holocaust survivors in Europe. And that's the first part of the film, because that shaped my my sensitivity for this topic.
So why did you feel compelled to make the movie, and why now?
My parents taught me the lesson when I grew up, that the mistake they had made and their generation had made was to take Hitler not serious enough at the beginning. They said if we would have done that, we could have stopped him because he wasn't that strong yet. It wasn't such a big movement yet, Nazism, at the beginning. So we should have, stood up to it much earlier than we did. By the time we took him serious, it was too late. He was too strong. We couldn't stop him. So I grew up virtually without any anti-Semitism in Holland, as you can imagine, in Amsterdam, as you can imagine, the world's most liberal city. But that changed in 2000. Certainly I heard chants in the street around me. Kill all the Jews. Hamas, Hamas, Jews to the gas. Cancer Jew. So I remember the lesson of my parents that they taught me. So I took those signs serious, looked into it, became active against it. And one of the things I did is making this documentary to give people the message that we have to stop this now. And that is not only relevant for the Jews, it's also relevant for other minorities and for society at large. We know from history, when anti-Semitism rises, it's a sign of rising tyranny. So it affects us all.
You and your partner Rosa both are children of Holocaust survivors, which is quite unique. How has that shaped your lives, your attitude to life?
It has made life more special and less for granted to us. In my case, my parents were liberated by the Americans, and there was a big amount of gratitude towards the Americans for that in our family. And also, it taught us that the most unexpected and irrational dangers can suddenly appear for the Jewish people and other minorities. It was so irrational what happened in the Holocaust. It made no sense, and yet it happened. So we are prepared in my generation for crazy things to happen, even if you believe they will never happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes your life much more extreme, because you started off after the Second World War II far more happy than most of us, because you were so alive. And you said in your film, your parents made you celebrate life, and now you've come to the other extreme and suffering more. So it's quite a big swing for you personally.
Very unexpected, Roger. As I said, I grew up virtually without any anti-Semitism, and totally free as a lesbian in Amsterdam. And then suddenly that changed, not by the authorities. The authorities don't have problems with Jews or gays, but parts of the population these days do.
Yeah.
So also, I used to see gay men walking hand in hand in the streets of Amsterdam all the time, but you won't see that much anymore.
That's sad.
Because there is a threat of being beaten up.
Yeah.
So it's very unexpected, that change, but it happened all over Western Europe.
I think the sad part that hit me hard in your movie, one of the many sad parts, was in 2004 when you and Rosa decided to emigrate to the US. Then, only 15 years ago, it was considered a safe haven. And now, in less than 14 years, it's not.
That's right. That's another unexpected turn of events, a negative turn of events, which we never expected. The United States has been the best country for Jews throughout its existence. And now we see anti-Semitism rise since 2016, deeply. And we had 2 very deadly attacks in the past year at synagogues coming from white supremacists.
Do you think it's still safer for you here and back in Europe?
Yes, it is. Jews have less of a risk walking in public or being in public spaces wearing Jewish symbols like a skull cap or a Star of David. But we saw in Brooklyn in the past 3 months, various Orthodox Jews who are visibly Jewish, obviously because of their clothes, being beaten up and thrown stones at. So that doesn't happen as often as it does in Europe, but it starts to happen here now, and that was not the case 5 years ago. So I'm worried.
You also mentioned in your movie that there was a time when a Dutch municipal council, town council, didn't condone them, but didn't slap them down, which they did in the past, which was a worrying thing. And now we've got an American administration that parts of it actively encourage it. So is that going to make it worse for us when the authorities are on the side of the anti-Semites?
What happened in Holland is that there was an ISIS demonstration in The Hague where demonstrators called for killing all the Jews, to kill the Jews. And the police was there and didn't act. And the mayor said it's freedom of speech. In America, I agree with you that the tone of voice of this administration is harsh and therefore can trigger feelings of hate to come out at people. But I don't agree with you that it's an anti-Semitic government. That's not how I look at it.
Evelyn, as gay Jews, should we worry more?
Yes.
You think we're even less safe than
yes. Yes, for two reasons. Maybe it's you could look at it as in an intersectional way. For instance, my partner Rosa and I, we had on our front door in Amsterdam, we had a pink Star of David graffiti.
Our front door.
So that says it all.
Yeah.
It was pink and it was a Star of David. There were more LGBT people in the building.
Yeah.
But no Jewish LGBT people. So that's one thing. The other thing is, unfortunately, I've seen that in Amsterdam. I've experienced that in Amsterdam already decades ago, and now I see Jews experience that here as well in the United States. Is that in our LGBT environment and activism groups, where we defend our rights, the climate tends to become very anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and if you say you're going on vacation to Israel, you somehow get socially punished.
Yeah.
So what I saw happen in Amsterdam was that Jewish LGBT people started their own group, their own Jewish LGBT group, and sort of split off from the main LGBT movement. I've seen incidents, I've heard about incidents, I've read about incidents in America as well, where, for instance, at the Dyke March in Chicago last year, a Jewish woman was proudly waving her rainbow flag with a Star of David in it. And she was asked to leave because other people had complained in the march that they didn't feel safe and comfortable with a Star of David in a flag. Because a Star of David made them think of oppression of Palestinians.
The film, thankfully, is currently available on Amazon Prime. What is a journey on after this for the film?
I have also launched a website called joinneveragainisnow.com, in which I try to keep people informed over time about the developments of anti-Semitism and the roots of it, and maybe the remedies that are there. So it contains a blog, my blog. And so in that way, I hope to keep people in the conversation about rising anti-Semitism. And I invite them to react to those blogs and add their ideas to mine so that we can make each other smarter and inspire each other to take individual personal action, do something against the rising anti-Semitism. If I would make a next film, what I have in my head, what I would love to do is make a documentary about a very hopeful phenomenon in my mind, and a very special phenomenon. And that is the growth, the first start and growth of a Muslim reform movement. I find that extremely exciting. I'm a Reformed Jew myself. And to see a development and a denomination like that start now in Islam, I find extremely exciting for Muslims who want to live a modern life with modern values and still want to be spiritual and pray to God.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fantastic development if that movement could really grow.
I'm excited. I mean, someone is Jewish by birth, or when my mother disappeared before I could be brought up. I'm gay. I'm very grateful for the film you've made. It's very important, and I so hope it gets the widest audience it so deserves. This is an important message, and it's something that we should all know about. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the film.
Thank you very much, Roger, for having me on your show and helping me to spread this message.
You're very welcome.
It's very difficult nowadays to show your Jewishness.
So people try to be invisible as Jews.
Invisible, yeah.
I wish I could say with absolute confidence that never again is now does not count for the United States. But I'm not sure that one can say that.
I want to join the forces that stand up, the kind of forces that liberated my parents. I want to join them rather than wait for them.